how do you start playing bebop? This was a question I asked myself when I was just starting out. I mean, I played for a year or something. I knew a bit about blues and like the blues scale, and I tried improvising a bit, but I wasn't quite getting like the sound that I wanted when I was listening to great players: Sonny Rollins, Clifford Brown, Charlie Parker, and of course Buddy DeFranco as a clarinetist. And I was just wondering, how do I get this sound? And I tried a lot of things, but it just didn't work out. But then I was just thinking, the reason I don't sound like them is because I don't play what they played. Because bebop is very much a language. There are a lot of words that are being used quite a lot. Like when you're speaking, there are, I mean, I say I have, I do, I talk. Those are words that I use a lot. I don't use words like exquisite, splendid, like when I'm just talking, like normally here. So I needed to find out what are these words in the bebop language that you keep on using again and again, and stop focusing so much on just learning all these hard chromatic lines. I mean, I was transcribing a lot of fast stuff because I was like, oh, this sounds so cool, I need to learn this. But really, what you need to focus on, at least in the beginning, then later you can learn this cool stuff, but learning the arpeggios, like learning how to play the arpeggios over the form, over the changes, learn to use chromaticism. That's a lot, like a big part of bebop is trying to put extra notes between the notes that you would normally play. So if you would play something like, you could play, so just playing the same, like I'm playing B flat arpeggio concert. On clarinet, it's a C arpeggio, and then from between the E and the G, I'm going chromatically up. So you can kind of connect the different like tones by using extra tones in between. Now, a common way of doing this is you can go upwards, like, oh. So going up, you can go down, and what they commonly do is they use enclosures. So that's where you play tones above and then tones below. You might have heard this, something like. So here I want to hit this tone like the E or concert B, and I go ba do do do. Another very important like piece of language in the bebop style is what is called pivot arpeggio. So you take a structure like an arpeggio, and then instead of going boom boom boom, then you go boom boom boom. So, and then you would often use like a seventh arpeggio. So. So you have like, it's a way to like kind of sound more interesting. It's not just going up, but it's moving more around. Now, when you learn to play these enclosures and you learn to play using chromaticism and pivot arpeggios, then there's another concept that you need to understand, because you already gotten quite far, but something really important to understand is to play the chord tones on the strong beat. So if you want to add some extra scale tones or chromaticism, you have to do it on the off beats, on the weak beats. If you play a normal scale, that consists of 7 tones, and you have like 8 beats in the bar with the on and off. So you will get this sound if you just play it down. It just sounds a bit weird when it ends like that, but you can add an extra tone. So now what I was doing here was I was adding an extra tone between the 6th and the 5th note of the scale. So 1 7 6 flat 6 5 4 3 2 1. And what that helps doing is it adds like an 8th note to the scale, which means that when I go down to like end the scale, I will end on the same tone that I started on the strong beat, on like the first beat of the next bar. Yeah, so when you understand about this concept about landing the strong tones and the strong beats, I mean, you can just play whatever. When you understand, like, you can just play all kinds of chromatic tones that doesn't fit with the scale, as long as they're not on the strong beat. So you can go. I mean, you can just have fun, like. Alright, so all this arpeggio, all this chromaticism, it's good and fine. You can learn a lot from it, but what's really important is the rhythm. If you just like learn some of those bebop rhythms, you can get so far. One of them that is very common is using like a leading tone and then a triplet. So ba da da da. Example could be, or as I did in the beginning, ba da da da. That could, or you can use it in the middle of a phrase, da 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 da. Using triplets instead of just going around with the 8 notes, da 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 da, that can get boring. So it adds variety to what you're playing, and that's really cool. You can also use 16th notes, but DeFranco loves doing this at the beginning of his phrases. So he goes like da da ga do ga do. So it kind of sends off like the the solo or wherever he is in his phrase. So very nice as well. You can also use, I mean, I talked about triplets. I was talking about 8 note triplets actually, but you can also go like, yeah, like a 16 note triplet, like the even faster, like trills. I mean, I just transcribed somebody DeFranco here some days ago, and he plays this really cool phrase. Like so cool. I mean, yeah, rhythmic variety, so important. Both triplets, 16th notes, 16th note triplets, do all this stuff. And a last thing I have to say about rhythm is starting and ending on upbeats. So important. Like solos can get so boring if they all start on the first, second, third, or fourth like beat. Starting on upbeats is so cool. I mean, a lot of people go ba da do ba do ba do. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do ga di da do do do. It just gets square, but if you can go 1, 2, 3, ga do da do ba, so much cooler. I mean, I just transcribed Buddy DeFranco's solo on All the Things You Are, and 2/3 of his phrases start on upbeats. And then when you end the phrase, ending on upbeats is such a big tradition. Like, you even hear it, like the word bebop, it's kind of like that. Bebop. It's ends on it. It's not ba ba do ba do ba do bop. It's da ba do da do do da. So doing that is also, it will just make your playing sound much more like bebop. Now, a last point that's very important to actually mention when you talk bebop is the articulation. The articulation is kind of like the way, like it's kind of like an accent in a way. When you hear classical musicians trying to play jazz, they will often articulate pretty much all the tones, and it just sounds really weird and awkward. Like they're playing all the right tones, all the right rhythms, they're not making any mistakes kind of, but when they're playing just sounds kind of weird. So I mean, articulation is really like the last piece of the puzzle to getting this bebop sound. But it's a very big and complicated topic, so I don't think I will be able to cover it today. But like there are some rules. When going upwards, you like to often articulate like the strong tones, no, the strong beats. So ba da 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 da. While going downward, you can articulate the upbeats. So ba do da do da do. But this is a very simplified version, and it's much more complicated than that. Just listening to the music and getting an idea of how the beboppers are playing it, that's probably one of the more easy ways to actually learn articulation. But I could cover that in a later episode if you're interested. Okay, so in the beginning, I was playing this solo that I wrote out, which includes all the elements that I talked about today. So what you see here is it starts in an upbeat, it goes on to end in an upbeat, this phrase, and the next phrase starts in an upbeat, ends in an upbeat, starts in an upbeat, ends in an upbeat, and you see a pattern like these phrases, yeah, they start and end on upbeat. Also, it's mainly 8 notes, but there's also a triplet here. There is a 16th note triplet here, an 8th note triplet here again. First starting with two 16th notes, like I talked about, that Buddy DeFranco uses a lot, and then just mainly the tones that I use are just the arpeggios of the chords. Now, often I play them without the roots. That's also a thing that is quite popular. So, like we have the C major 7, but I don't play the C. I just play the other tones of the chords. The same with the A, just starting on the thirds. Like thirds and sevens are considered very important in this style of music. So I'll just play it through once, and yeah, you can try to see if you recognize some of the things I talked about before. And I know I called this video "How to Start Bebop," but I just gave you literally what is worth 2 years of studying. So I mean, it might be a bit overwhelming what I've talked about here, but I was just trying to give like a general overview of what you can learn. If you are interested, I do give out one-on-one lessons. So if you want something more specific and not this big pile of information, I can give you some tips and some different exercises, specially tailored for your needs. So there's a link in the description if you're interested. Yeah, and that's it. Have a nice day.